Hey, my name is Cameron and I am from Orlando, Florida. I'm 27 and have been keeping this little secret revenge of mine in my heart, and no one really knows about it, other than my close family, but today I decided to share it with everyone. A while back I got cheated on by my wife, and rather than crying about it like a little puppy, I got his father involved and took solid revenge by making her face the consequences of her actions. So let me start from the beginning. After I graduated from the University of Central Florida with a degree in digital arts and design, I landed a pretty sweet gig at a video gaming company here in Orlando. I have always been a huge fan of video games, and I got the opportunity to create mesmerizing motion graphics that made games so immersive. It was a dream job, really. I got to spend my days crafting stunning visuals and bringing characters to life, all while surrounded by like-minded geeks who shared my passion for gaming. Despite loving my job, my social life was not exactly thriving. I had been single for what felt like forever. It's not that I did not go out or meet people, it's just that nothing ever seemed to click. Plus, between work and hanging out with friends, I did not feel like I was missing out, so I had resigned myself to the single life for a while, focusing on my career and hobbies. But of course, my mom had other plans. She has always been a bit of a matchmaker and was determined to see me settled down. One day, out of the blue, she called me up and said she had someone I needed to meet. Now, my mom has always been one for setting me up, but this time she seemed extra enthusiastic. She had met this girl, Amelia, in her dance class. And yes, my mom was still busting moves in her yoga Pilates dance fusion class at that time. Anyway, she told me that Amelia was a sweet girl and thought we would hit it off. I was not too keen on the idea at first because blind dates had never been my thing, but my mom was persistent. So, I agreed to meet Amelia. We decided on a casual coffee date at this cozy little cafe downtown. I was expecting it to be awkward and forced, but when I walked in and saw her, something just clicked. And I still remember how Amelia was standing there with this easygoing smile, wearing a yoga top and jeans, looking totally at ease. Turns out, Amelia was not just a student in the dance class, she was a yoga instructor and owned her own studio downtown. She went to dance classes for fun, a way to unwind and keep things interesting. We started talking, and before I knew it, hours had passed. We shared stories about our work, like her passion for helping people find balance through yoga and my obsession with creating killer game graphics. It was like we were on the same wavelength from the start. From that day on, things just fell into place. We started dating, and life suddenly felt a lot more vibrant. I thought that Amelia brought this sense of balance and peace into my chaotic world, and dating her had been one of the best things that has ever happened to me. Well, clearly I was wrong. Anyway, we had been seeing each other for a while and things were going great. Naturally, the time came for the big step, meeting each other's parents. I was excited but also a bit nervous, especially about meeting her dad. First up were my parents. My mom was over the moon that I was finally dating someone, especially someone as amazing as Amelia. She would brag about our relationship to all her friends in her yoga Pilates dance fusion class. When my parents met Amelia, they were instantly charmed. My dad, who's usually pretty reserved, could not stop smiling, and my mom was practically swooning. They kept telling us how cute we were together, and it felt like they had adopted Amelia into the family on the spot. Next, it was my turn to meet Amelia's parents. Her mom, Linda, was wonderful, warm, friendly, and immediately welcoming. But her dad, Richard, was a different story. He was polite but had this way of looking at me like he was trying to figure out if I was worthy of his daughter. He did not fully dislike me, but I could tell he thought Amelia could do better. Amelia was his pride and joy, and I get that. She was smart, talented, and kind, and it was pretty clear that Richard was incredibly proud of her. He had that protective dad vibe turned up to 11. Every time I talked about my job or my hobbies, he would just nod, but I could see the gears turning in his head, evaluating if I measured up to his standards. It was like he was waiting for me to slip up. One time, we were all having dinner together, and I mentioned a big project I was working on at the gaming company. Richard listened, but then started talking about how Amelia was running her own yoga studio and how successful she was at such a young age. It was not a direct comparison, but the subtext was clear that Amelia was exceptional, and I needed to step up my game. Despite this, I never felt completely unwelcome. Richard was not outright hostile, but just very, very cautious. He loved his daughter and wanted the best for her. And honestly, I could not blame him for that because, at that time, I thought that if I had a daughter as incredible as Amelia, I would probably be just as protective. On the flip side, Amelia and my mom had practically become best friends and were like our biggest cheerleaders. They used to have these long conversations about yoga, dance, and life in general. My mom would always tell me how lucky I was to have found someone like Amelia, and I truly thought she was right. After dating for a while, it became clear that Amelia was the one because everything just clicked with her, like our interests, values, and even our quirks. So one evening, while we were having a quiet dinner at our favorite spot by the lake, I popped the question. And just like that, we were engaged. Our wedding was beautiful as well. Amelia wanted something simple yet elegant, so we opted for a small ceremony in a charming garden with just our closest friends and family. Once the wedding festivities were over, it was time to settle into our new life together. We found this cute little house in a quiet neighborhood with just the right mix of cozy and spacious, and moving in was a bit chaotic, but it was also exciting. Our new home felt like a fresh start and a place where we could build our life together. Overall, life was going pretty good. Of course, it was not all sunshine and rainbows. We had our share of disagreements like any couple, but we always managed to work things out. Amelia had this way of keeping things calm and balanced, even when I was stressed about a deadline or something at work. And I like to think I brought some fun and spontaneity into her life and made sure we never took things too seriously. Now, as I said, life with Amelia seemed perfect. We had our cozy little house, our jobs that we loved, and a routine that felt comfortable and happy. But after a while, I started noticing some changes in Amelia. It was not like a sudden shift, it was more of a gradual thing that crept up on us. At first, it was small things. Amelia seemed a bit more reserved than usual, almost distant. She had always been the calm and composed type, but now it felt like she had something on her mind. She would run off to her studio in a hurry, leaving earlier in the mornings and coming home later at night. I figured maybe she was just busy with some new classes or projects, so I did not think much of it. I started noticing more signs that things were off. She was always checking her phone, even more than usual, and would get these texts that made her smile in a way that was not quite right. I used to ask her who she was texting, and she would say it was just business drama or friends from the studio. But her explanations felt thin, like there was something she was not telling me. But then, a few months later, things got weirder. Amelia suddenly started buying a lot of expensive things like designer clothes, fancy jewelry, and high-end gadgets. Now, she always had great taste, but this was on a whole new level. It was like every week there was a new delivery at our door, and it was not cheap stuff. Our lifestyle had always been pretty modest. And sure, her studio did well, but I did not think it was pulling in enough money to support this sudden splurge. In just 1 month, it got to the point that I started worrying about our finances, and just when I was about to confront Amelia, I saw my bank account. There was this savings account registered under my name, but it was really just a family account that both Amelia and I used for our savings. We had been putting money in it ever since we got married, thinking it would be a good nest egg for the future. For a long time, everything seemed normal. But after Amelia started acting weirdly, I noticed something odd. One day, I was checking our accounts like I usually did, and I saw these large amounts of money being deposited into the savings account at the end of each month. I'm talking thousands of dollars, way more than what Amelia's studio should have been pulling in. It was enough to make me sit up and take notice. I could not ignore it and had to ask Amelia what was going on. It had got to the point where I could not just ignore it anymore. I wanted to trust her, but the secrecy and the sudden changes were driving me crazy. So one evening, I sat her down and brought it up. "Hey Amelia, I was looking at our savings account and I noticed there's a lot of money coming in every month. It does not add up to what we have been making. What's going on?" She looked startled for a moment, then quickly tried to smooth things over. "Oh, that's just extra income from the studio. We have been doing really well lately and I have been getting some private clients who pay a premium for my sessions. But this much? It seems like way too much, even for private clients. Are you sure that's all it is?" "Yes, Cameron. I know it seems like a lot, but the studio's been expanding and we are bringing in more revenue. I thought you would be happy that things were going well. Why are you questioning me about this?" "It's not that I'm not happy about the studio doing well, Amelia. It's just, this is a lot of money, and I feel like you are not telling me everything. We have always been honest with each other about our finances. Why keep this a secret?" I didn't want to worry you. Things have been stressful enough lately, and I thought handling this on my own would be better. I'm sorry if it seemed like I was hiding something. I promise it's just the studio. Her explanations did not sit right with me. But I didn't push it further that night. I decided to keep an eye on the account and see if the deposits continued. Deep down, I felt like there was more to the story than she was letting on, but I did not know how to get to the bottom of it without causing more tension between us. Over the next few weeks, the deposits kept coming and Amelia's behavior did not change. She was still distant, still running off to the studio at odd hours, and still buying expensive things. I knew I needed to figure out what was really going on, but I also knew that pushing her too hard could make things worse, so I left things as they were, without thinking much about it. Then, one day, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through Facebook like I usually did, liking memes and catching up on what my friends were up to. Out of nowhere, I got added to one of those types of groups. You know, the ones sketchy, 18, spammy groups that seem to add everyone under the sun. It had happened to me before, and I always used to leave them immediately. This time, I was just about to click that leave group button when something caught my eye. A video thumbnail popped up, and my heart dropped. It was Amelia. I thought maybe it was a mistake or some weird coincidence, but curiosity got the best of me, and I clicked on it. What I saw next made my stomach churn. It was not just Amelia, it was Amelia with another man, doing things that no one should be watching. The video was explicit, showing her in ways I never imagined seeing outside of our private moments. I could not believe my eyes. My perfect Amelia, who I thought I knew better than anyone, was in a Facebook group dedicated to illicit content. It was not a full video, more like one of those clickbait clips that's less than a minute or two. You had to pay and follow some links to watch the whole thing, which I did because I was desperate. After a lot of hassle, I finally managed to access the entire thing. I felt sick and my hands were shaking as I clicked through more posts. There were multiple videos, all featuring Amelia with the same man. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks that she had been cheating on me for a while. And it was not just a fling, it was a whole other life she had been living behind my back. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but I could not stop watching. It was like a train wreck I could not look away from. The comments on the videos made it even worse, as strangers talked about her like she was some sort of star in their twisted little world. The Amelia I knew, the yoga instructor, the loving wife, the woman who had brought so much joy into my life, was now someone I didn't recognize at all. I sat there for what felt like hours, just staring at my screen, numb and in shock. My mind was racing. How could she do this to us? To me? I thought about confronting her, but what could I even say? It felt surreal, like a bad dream I could not wake up from. Finally, I snapped out of it and deleted myself from the group. But the damage was done. My perception of Amelia, our marriage, and everything we had built together was shattered. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly lost. At that time, I did not know what my next move would be, but I knew one thing for sure, that nothing would ever be the same again. After I recovered a bit from the shock of seeing those videos on Facebook, I knew I had to get to the bottom of what was really going on with Amelia. I could not just sit there and let everything fall apart without understanding the truth. So I started digging, trying to piece together the puzzle of her secret life. First, I checked her phone when she left it unattended, something I never thought I would do. But as I said, desperate times. There were messages from a guy named Tom Watkins. They were full of plans, locations, and details about shoots. It did not take long to figure out that Tom was more than just a friend or business partner. He was her lover and partner in crime. Next, I checked her emails and found invoices and transactions linked to various adult content platforms. She had been producing and distributing adult content online, and Tom was her co-star and co-producer, and she had been using our savings account, which was registered under my name, for all the transactions very cleverly, making sure I did not suspect her. Amelia was literally running a secret business right under my nose and using my name to do it. I started piecing together all the clues I had overlooked. The expensive clothes and gadgets made sense now they were funded by this underground business. Her constant running off to the studio was not about yoga classes, but it was about filming these explicit videos. Every time she was working late, she was with Tom, creating content for their online audience. I found out more about Tom through some internet sleuthing. He was a local guy, a few years older than me, with a history of sketchy ventures. He seemed to have a knack for finding partners in his schemes, and Amelia was his latest. They had built quite a following, and the money was rolling in, which explained the sudden influx of high-end purchases. I was so pissed by the whole thing that I decided to confront Amelia as soon as I saw her, because I had no idea what else to do. In the evening when she got home, I showed her everything I had found. She looked shocked, but not in the way I expected. More like she was caught and did not know how to talk her way out of it. I pulled out my laptop and opened the folder with the messages, the emails, everything, and showed it to her. "What is this? What have you been doing?" "Cameron, Don't try to lie. Just tell me the truth." "I am so sorry, Cameron. I did not mean for this to happen. It started as a way to make extra money. At first it was just a few small things, but then it spiraled. And it was not me, it was Tom. I met him through a friend and he introduced me to it all. He was persuasive and suggested this idea, and it seemed easy." "Easy? You thought this was easy money? To run this dirty little secret business behind my back? And to use my personal information for your transactions?" I didn't think it would get this far. I got caught up in the excitement and the cash flow. It was stupid, I know. If you wanted more money or anything, why didn't you just talk to me? Why go behind my back like this? I didn't want to burden you. I thought you would not understand. And then it just kept growing, and I didn't know how to stop. Burden me? We are supposed to be partners, Amelia. We are supposed to talk to each other, not keep secrets like this. Cameron, please, don't tell anyone about this. I will do whatever you want, just please don't let this get out. I don't know, Amelia. I don't know if I can just keep this a secret." She sobbed, burying her face in her hands. "I'm so sorry. Please just give me a chance to make it right. I will stop everything. I will do whatever you say, but please don't ruin me." At that moment, I knew our marriage was over. There was no coming back from this level of betrayal. I could not stay with someone who could deceive me so completely, who could lead a double life and drag me into her mess without a second thought. So, I packed a bag and left. I needed time to think and to process everything. Amelia tried to stop me to explain more, but I could not hear it. I needed space. I stayed at a hotel that night trying to figure out what my next steps would be. I spent that night tossing and turning, and my mind was racing with everything Amelia had confessed. I could not believe she had betrayed me like that. By morning, I knew I had to take action. I could not just sit around and let this eat me alive. I wanted Amelia to pay for what she had done to me. I was burning with the need for revenge, so I decided to contact Richard, her father. Now, Richard had always been so proud of Amelia. He talked about her accomplishments like she was the greatest thing in the world. But Richard was also a man of strong morals, so I hoped that when he would see the evidence, there was no way he would be able to deny it. This man had always been tough on me, always questioning if I was good enough for his daughter. Now, I had to show him that she was not who he thought she was, and he would finally get to know the real face of his daughter. I called Richard and asked if we could meet. He could tell something was wrong by the tone of my voice, so he agreed right away. We met at a quiet cafe where we could talk without interruptions. After some small talk, I took a deep breath and started explaining. I told him about the videos, Amelia's secret business, and Tom. He listened intently and his face grew more serious with every word. Then, I took out my phone and showed him the videos. I could see the pain and disbelief in his eyes as he watched. He looked like he had been punched in the gut. That was when I played the role of the perfect and innocent son-in-law who had been betrayed by his daughter. "Richard, I'm so sorry you have to see this, but you needed to know the truth." He didn't say anything for a long time. He just stared at the table, his hands clenched into fists. Finally, he looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. "How long has this been going on?" "From what I have found, it has been a while. Months, maybe even longer. She has been living a double life, Richard, and she has dragged us both into it. I knew something was off with her lately, but I never imagined. My own daughter was involved in something so disgraceful." I could see the weight of the situation bearing down on him. Richard was a proud man, a man who had always held his family to high standards. To find out his daughter was involved in something so sordid must have been a crushing blow. "We need to confront her together. She needs to understand the full impact of what she's done. And Tom, he needs to be dealt with too." "I already did, Richard. And now I am planning to sue her for everything. I will support you through it all." So I had laid it all out for Richard, not just to get back at Amelia, but to hit her hard where it hurt. I figured her dad would be the easiest mark because she begged me not to tell anyone, and I knew he would be crushed by the truth. But what I did not anticipate was Richard's support throughout the entire ordeal. It was surprising yet incredibly gratifying. He promised to stand by my side through the whole mess. It was unexpected but incredibly satisfying. Having him in my corner made the whole pursuit of justice against Amelia feel like a sweet revenge. She thought she could keep her secrets hidden, but now the truth was out, and I had her dad on my side who understood the gravity of her betrayal. This revenge had a bittersweet taste, but with Richard backing me, it felt like justice was about to catch up to her. After talking it out with Richard, the first decided to go forward with the whole legal drama as soon as possible, because I did not want Amelia to do anything else about the whole thing before me. As the legal proceedings began, Richard offered financial assistance for the legal fees, something I had not even considered. Lawyers were not cheap, especially good ones, and his help eased a burden I was not sure how to carry alone. Richard also played a pivotal role in gathering evidence against his own daughter. It could not have been easy for him, knowing he was contributing to the case that would expose Amelia's secret life and likely lead to painful public scrutiny. But he did it anyway, driven by a sense of duty to uphold the truth and protect our family's integrity. Then, after hiring a lawyer, we started building our case. I clearly told him that it was not just about ending our marriage, it was about holding Amelia accountable for the pain and damage she had caused. So, we decided to sue her for divorce on grounds of adultery, emotional distress, and financial misconduct. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was a tense arena, filled with murmurs and the shuffle of papers as my lawyer presented the damning evidence against Amelia. He laid out all the details methodically. He showed how Amelia had used my personal information like my bank accounts and credit cards, and had even forged signatures on documents to conduct her illicit business transactions. Each piece of evidence felt like a punch to the gut and a stark reminder of the extent of her betrayal. Amelia's defense team tried to paint her as a victim and claimed that she was coerced by her business partner, Tom, into these activities. They argued that she had no choice, that she was just trying to survive in a difficult situation. But the evidence spoke for itself. My lawyer also presented screenshots of bank statements, emails, and online messages, all linking Amelia to the production and distribution of adult content using my resources. It was sickening to see how she had manipulated our life together for her own gain, all while hiding behind a facade of innocence. Amelia just sat there, looking increasingly desperate as the evidence piled up against her, and I still remember how her eyes darted around the room, avoiding mine and her father's gaze. And then Richard took the stand. I had known he would testify, but seeing him there, resolute and unwavering, made me so happy and was very rewarding. He spoke with a quiet intensity and his words were measured but filled with raw emotion. He recounted how he had raised Amelia with values of honesty and integrity, only to discover her deception and betrayal. Richard's testimony was almost like a turning point. He did not hold back and recounted the pain and disappointment he felt upon learning the truth about his daughter. He also described how her actions had not just hurt me, but had tarnished their family's reputation and trust. And Amelia was full-on crying at this moment, which made me feel a bit sorry for her, but I remembered everything she had put me through. The jury then deliberated for what felt like an eternity, and then finally returned with their verdict: guilty on all counts. The judge also granted me a favorable divorce settlement, recognizing the immense emotional and financial damage Amelia had caused. She was ordered to pay a huge restitution for her actions, money that would help me rebuild my life after the chaos she had unleashed. It was not just about the money, though. It was about holding her accountable for the betrayal and deceit. I still remember how Amelia sat there in the courtroom, looking completely defeated. Her usual confident demeanor had evaporated and was replaced by a hollow stare that spoke volumes. It was clear that the weight of everything had finally caught up with her. The fallout from her secret life and illicit business dealings was spreading like wildfire. People who once admired her were now keeping their distance: friends, family, even casual acquaintances. The social ostracism was swift and severe. Her relationship with Tom, her partner in crime, was also crumbling under the weight of legal scrutiny. What once seemed like a profitable venture was now unraveling before their eyes. Tom, who had appeared to be the mastermind, was now just as vulnerable as Amelia. Their empire of deceit was collapsing, and they were powerless to stop it. Meanwhile, for me, the days following the verdict felt like a heavy burden had been lifted from my shoulders. The legal battle had been draining, but justice had prevailed and I could finally exhale and start rebuilding my life. As for Amelia, her downward spiral was steep and unforgiving. The financial restitution she was ordered to pay was substantial, leaving her facing potential financial ruin. Without the steady income from her illicit activities, her future looked bleak. Socially, she found herself isolated and shunned by the community she had once been a part of. It was a stark and painful reality, one that she had brought upon herself through her own actions. I heard through the grapevine that Tom had tried to move on, but the shadow of their illegal activities followed him relentlessly. Their partnership, which was built on lies and greed, couldn't withstand the legal pressure. Both of them were now grappling with the consequences alone and faced a future far different from the one they had thought about.